It's said that love is loud, with great confessions, passion, and fireworks. However, sometimes the purest kind of love is completely silent. It is the stillness that feels like home, the tranquil presence that never leaves, and the serenity that follows a storm. Additionally, silence speaks louder than words when an avoidant loves you. It is devotion, not absence. For an avoidant, romantic gestures, unceasing reassurance, or dramatic vows of love are not signs of true commitment. In the gradual development of emotional safety, it grows silently, almost imperceptibly. Love is not about passion for someone whose life has been centered around independence and separation. It has to do with safety. The uncommon experience of feeling without feeling threatened by those sentiments is what draws them together, not the intensity of those sensations. Their attachment is based on emotional protection, and they won't start to love in a lasting sense until they actually experience that safety. Early in childhood, an avoidant learns that relationships can be dangerous. They associate intimacy with emotional strain, criticism, or a loss of control. Thus, they construct walls for safety rather than ego. They start to experience a new sense of inner serenity when they encounter someone who respects their timing rather than attempting to burst through those barriers. It's this tranquility that gradually makes commitment possible. They will inevitably begin to include you into their inner world to the extent that they perceive no threat to their independence. Chasing them or attempting to persuade them to stay are not the goals. The goal is to create an environment that eliminates the need for their defenses. For an avoidant, consistency rather than intensity is what creates emotional safety. They notice trends, how you resolve disputes, whether you give them space when they need it, and how you respond to their quiet. They start to see that love does not always equate to turmoil if you can maintain your composure in certain situations. Something deep within them begins to heal as a result of that understanding. They realize for the first time that love is possible without losing oneself in it. They are able to gradually surrender what they had previously withheld, their time, their thoughts, and eventually their heart, thanks to this peaceful revelation. Little but significant changes start to occur as an avoidant starts to feel safe. They get in touch more frequently. They talk about their day in brief. Rather than remaining defensive or acting, they start to unwind around you. Even seemingly insignificant acts of kindness, such as a morning text, an offer to hang out, or an infrequent moment of candor about one's anxieties, can be potent indicators of trust. These deeds have greater significance for them than any lofty, sentimental words. "I feel safe with you," they are saying. And that emotion is the pinnacle of love for an avoidant. This type of dedication is not what most people anticipate. It is not accompanied by unceasing love or repeated words of confidence. Rather, it manifests itself through dependability. They are not only deciding to love you when they commit. Despite all of their instincts telling them to distance themselves, they choose to remain emotionally accessible. Because they think the link is worthwhile, they are choosing to jeopardize their most secure areas. Making this choice is difficult and takes time. However, once it happens, it becomes firmly established. There are no promises in the avoidant form of eternity. There is a lot of presence. They are gradually removing years of learned self-defense when they let you in addition to sharing space. Despite its unassuming appearance, their love is really genuine. They choose consistency over intensity and depth over show. It is a love that prioritizes understanding over control, safety over thrill, and tranquility over drama. Commitment in this type of love is a transformation rather than a declaration, a shift from loneliness to communal serenity and from fear to trust. The best indication that the avoidant wants you in the long run is when they discover the strength to stay beyond emotional safety. A modest but significant shift in an avoidant's emotional development occurs when they start searching for presence rather than distance. Pulling away is a common trait of avoidance, not because they don't care, but rather because being near to someone makes them fear losing themselves. They may perceive intimacy as a danger to their autonomy. The desire to take a step back and go back to a place where emotions are simpler to control might be sparked by every moment of connection. However, when people start to embrace intimacy instead of avoiding it, it indicates that something has shifted within them. It indicates that their barriers are no longer needed because love has reached a point of safety. This change takes time to occur. An avoidant person may still alternate between seeking intimacy and avoiding it at first. It is an internal fight between wanting to be loved and not wanting to be overtaken by that love. Being with someone who doesn't make them choose between freedom and love helps ease this stress. They start to unwind when they understand that your presence does not require them to sacrifice themselves. The first step to emotional openness is this calm state of comfort. They begin to realize that being with you does not equate to relinquishing control. It entails finding solace in just being together. Learning to desire presence is a profound change for someone who has spent years associating safety with remoteness. Initially, it could manifest itself in subtle ways, such as wanting to spend a bit more time together, prolonging conversations, or sitting in silence without feeling the need to run away. These are subtle indicators that their neurological system, which had previously been programmed to retreat, is now learning to feel secure in social situations. Calm has taken the place of stress. Curiosity has replaced avoidance. They start to connect you with tranquility rather than strain. This is a profoundly psychological shift. Avoidants are extremely vulnerable to emotional strain. They no longer feel overwhelmed by your intimacy when they begin to seek you out. They no longer believe that love might ensnare them. Rather, they start to appreciate the security that comes with being close to you. You become into someone they can unwind with rather than run to, a place of emotional rest they never knew they needed. They don't use force to bring down their walls. They gradually disappear because of the trust that is established in a calm and consistent relationship. Even if it is slight, their love is evident in these instances. They might reach for your hand out of a serene feeling of intimacy rather than habit. They might express an idea that they would typically keep to themselves or let quiet linger without feeling uncomfortable. These seemingly insignificant acts have great significance for an avoidant. They demonstrate that the desire to flee has lost control. They are starting to develop a sense of security from being with you rather than from being by themselves. This stage is beautiful because it demonstrates a more profound harmony between independence and affection. An avoidant may not necessarily stop needing space when they want your presence. It implies that you no longer perceive distance as a barrier. They may be both open and close without feeling vulnerable. Instead of fleeing connection, they are now finding solace in it. Peace, not performance, is the foundation of their definition of intimacy. An avoidant ultimately demonstrates that their love has developed into something enduring by moving from distance to presence. It has nothing to do with grand movements or dramatic language. It's about how people start to choose to be close to you out of true desire rather than obligation. The hidden indicators of profound love are their serene companionship, their quiet devotion, and their ease in just being with you. When the avoidant starts to look for you, it indicates that you have entered their inner peace, where they no longer need to flee in order to feel liberated. One of the most profound displays of love an avoidant may give is when they begin to show their inner turmoil. They have spent the most of their lives believing that emotions are dangerous, that being vulnerable causes suffering, and that the only way to be safe is to rely on oneself. They build an inner world that appears calm on the exterior but is turbulent on the inside. A place where emotional loneliness, silent misgivings, and concealed worries abound. It takes an almost sacred level of trust to let someone else into this universe. It's hardly casual when they start talking about their inner turmoil. It is a very intimate gesture of emotional trust, a discreet admission that they no longer regard you as a threat but rather as someone who can understand their reality. Avoidants shield themselves from other people's uncertainty by hiding behind emotional armor. They have learned to control their emotions and maintain composure even while they are having internal difficulties in order to survive. Rarely does their demand for distance involve shoving people away. It has to do with self-defense. Therefore, it indicates that something genuine has changed within them when they get to the point where they no longer feel the need to hide. It indicates that they are starting to have faith in both you and the relationship. And at that instant, their love, quiet, steadfast, and profoundly real, finally comes to light in a way that words could never adequately convey. Love has softened their innate need to withdraw, which is why they begin to disclose what is truly happening behind that exterior calm. It indicates that they have found someone whose presence calms rather than intensifies their inner turmoil. In the midst of their emotional turmoil, the person gradually stabilizes. Usually, this shift starts off very subtly. They may provide a small detail, such as a story from their past, a personal phobia, or a traumatic experience they don't often discuss. These times may appear ordinary to others, yet they are crucial to an avoidant. Every little confession is like dismantling years' worth of walls. The more they feel vulnerable and welcomed, the more they start to think that love is possible despite flaws. They gradually come to realize that exposing sorrow does not make them weak, that being seen does not always result in rejection, and that genuine connection can truly allay the worries they have been avoiding for so long. An avoidant's emotional issues are frequently chaotic and unpolished when they are revealed to others. They don't open up easily. They frequently apologize for being overly emotional, have trouble articulating their feelings, and have difficulty speaking. However, there is something genuinely significant hidden behind all of that reluctance. They want to establish a genuine and sincere connection. This type of sensitivity demonstrates their emotional involvement in addition to their attachment. They no longer seek to always appear powerful. They desire to be comprehended. They now seek empathy rather than perfection. They might also gauge the extent of your concern by displaying their inner turmoil. Allowing you to view their shattered portions becomes a test of emotional safety since they have spent so much of their lives fearing abandonment. You might not understand how important your response is. They gradually develop a new belief that love does not always require perfection and that being imperfect does not make one undeserving if you react patiently and without passing judgment. Instead of continuously resisting love, this kind of acceptance enables people to eventually unwind in it. Their transparency deepens over time. They might begin to communicate their wants as well as their concerns, which is something avoidance typically struggles with. At this point, love starts to transform into actual devotion since revealing oneself is the greatest act of surrender for someone who has survived by hiding for so long. They are saying, "I trust you with the parts of myself that I don't even trust myself with." Their guarded affection transforms into genuine emotional intimacy at that precise time. This stage's subtle truth is what makes it so beautiful. It is not necessary for the avoidant to display affection in grand or spectacular ways. They demonstrate it by being truthful. It is not a sign of weakness that they are eager to expose their inner turmoil. In fact, it is evidence of their power. They don't ask you to mend their storms when they let you witness them. All they are asking is that you stay. Additionally, you become more than just a companion when you decide to stay. You become the source of their tranquility. Love ceases to feel like a struggle in that common area of trust and comprehension. It begins to feel secure. One of the best indicators that an avoidant genuinely loves you and wants you in their life is when they start to defend the relationship rather than just themselves. Their natural tendency has been to defend themselves for the most of their lives. Their emotional response is to protect their autonomy, prevent vulnerability from becoming dependent, and maintain emotional control. For them, love is both alluring and terrifying. It brings warmth, but it also carries risk, the possibility of being betrayed, losing something, or feeling overpowered. Therefore, it indicates that love has surpassed fear when they gradually shift from just defending themselves to also defending the relationship they have with you. It indicates that they now value the relationship and wish to protect it rather than viewing it as something that could harm them. This change is subtle but effective. Initially, avoidants frequently withdraw at the first indication of disagreement or uncertainty. It's simpler to be silent than to confront things. It feels safer to be far away than to communicate. However, you will find that they start to stick around even in awkward situations when they start to care more profoundly. Even though kids may still have trouble articulating their feelings, they make an effort to prevent harm. Rather than fleeing, they gradually start making repairs. For someone whose natural tendency has always been to flee, that tiny shift from escape to safeguarding is crucial. It indicates that their relationship is now more important than their previous avoidance habits. The avoidant begins to become more conscious of your feelings as well as their own boundaries in order to preserve the relationship. They start to realize how their behavior impacts you. They used to disregard your emotions in order to maintain their independence, but nowadays they consider things through before acting. They start to realize that preserving their tranquility also entails preserving yours. From self-defense to mutual care, love gradually develops. This shift does not occur overnight. It develops via silent observation. They perceive that you are kind, patient, and capable of loving them without attempting to manipulate them. And they begin to return the favor in their own unique way. Additionally, at this point, their displays of affection grow more responsible and less defensive. The avoidant begins to manage their triggers more effectively. They may still require space when they feel overburdened, but they now give an explanation rather than vanishing. Instead of avoiding issues, they attempt to find solutions when they arise. They are saying, "I want to protect what we have." This kind of development demonstrates how love is giving them a new kind of strength, the ability to maintain connections without losing who they are. They start to view love as something that gives their lives purpose instead of something that robs them of their independence. In many respects, they use relationship protection as a covert means of demonstrating their dedication. Even though they find it difficult to utilize words like forever, their behavior starts to make it obvious. When it matters, they show up. When others misinterpret the relationship, they defend it. They start to consider how choices impact you both, not just themselves. These are indicators of stability rather than overt amorous gestures. It demonstrates that they now consider the connection to be a significant aspect of their lives. Additionally, this level demonstrates emotional bravery. Deeply loving might be unsettling to an avoidant because it can lead to pain. However, they are choosing love over fear when they start prioritizing the relationship. They acknowledge the risk involved with the connection, but they determine it is worthwhile. This choice demonstrates emotional development, the point at which love transforms from something they merely manage into something they genuinely value and cultivate. In love, they are no longer merely attempting to survive. Within it, they begin to create something significant. An avoidant has transitioned from isolation to connection when they start defending the bond. They are no longer keeping you out of their hearts. Together with you, they are defending it. Although it may not be apparent to everyone, this silent devotion is strongly felt between two individuals who are aware of emotional patience. Their presence becomes dependable, their concern becomes consistent, and their effort becomes genuine. They decide to defend love, which used to frighten them. The most obvious indication that they desire you for the long term, not simply for the present, is that silent protection. Loud words, dramatic gestures, or persistent demonstrations of affection are not signs of an avoidant's love. It is long-lasting, stable, and serene. When they are in love, they express it in a way that may be invisible to others but is evident to those who know them. Love has always been difficult for the avoidant, who simultaneously fears and longs for intimacy. They have believed that intimacy can be harmful for a large portion of their lives. As a result, their love takes on great significance when they eventually decide to stay. It may not resemble what you see in movies, but because it is based on constancy rather than thrill, it is a type of love that endures. Because control and emotional distance make them feel comfortable, avoidants are drawn to them by nature. They are afraid of relying on someone because it used to feel too dangerous for them, not because they don't have strong feelings. Their sense of control is disrupted when they fall in love. They start thinking about you more than they would ever publicly acknowledge, feeling more than they are comfortable with, and caring more than they had intended. Even so, they don't use many words to convey these intense feelings. They demonstrate them by being consistent. Even though they might not express their love for you frequently, they will be there for you when you really need them. Even if they might not show you love every day, they will never forget what makes you happy, what soothes you, and what is important to you. Deep love for an avoidant entails subtly creating room in their inner world for you. You will see it in the subtle ways they incorporate you into their routine without drawing much attention to it. They no longer feel the urge to flee from another person's presence, and you can sense it in the comfort of shared stillness. Their love is not about repeatedly demonstrating things. It is about safeguarding what is already in place. It is motivated by a continuous, serene sense of communal tranquility rather than by emotional highs. Tell me, do you sense it as well? I appreciate you finally remaining with me. For more videos that alter your perspective, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Because with your love and support, this channel will expand. Many thanks.